Happy Sunday morning, everybody. This is Bill with WWP Reacts. Um, got a new microphone, so hopefully my sound sounds better, and I got a light. Started to make some progress in my channel here. Um, I'm really going to focus because this is so important to, I think, the world. With some of the other things are important, like Venezuela is important, um, Syria is important, Iran's important, but this Russia-Ukraine going into its fourth year is very important to be watching day to day to see how things have changed. So again, if you like this, please like and subscribe. Um, and give me some comments. Give me some feedback on my commentary because I want to give commentary, not just play videos like other people do. I want to give commentary to what's going on strategically and tactically on the ground. I'm a retired United States Army officer. I served for 34 years um, as an enlisted man, NCO, an officer, and retired as a field grade officer, serving from 1979 to 2013. Served in places like Honduras, Nicaragua, in the Sandinista stuff, Panama, Desert Storm, um, of course in Iraq and Afghanistan, OIF, OEF. Went to Kosovo, done a bunch of things in my life. And so I want to share some of the things. First thing I wanted to show, I like the Institute for the Study of War. General Jack Keane, this is his baby. Great job they do. What I want to start though, this is a big picture of all the way from, I guess you would call it the northeast down to the southwest. So kind of the whole battlefront with all the different oblasts, right? The Luhansk Oblast, the Donetsk Oblast, oblasts like county here in the States, I guess. And the Donetsk Oblast is this whole area. But what I wanted to show you is this stuff right here, this area that has the lines going through it, um, is the Russian controlled territory before the war started, 24 February 22. So this is what they controlled prior, right? According to our graph down here. So since then, in 4 years, all Russia has done is move this. Now we know by looking at some other sites that 150,000 service members on each side, and that's a low estimate, I think, have been killed um, in the fighting just in 2025 alone. Now, this, got to remember, this is a war that's longer than, this will be a longer engagement for Russia in a major war, longer than World War II, the Great War, right? All right, so let's look at the areas that have had some fighting, and then I'm going to switch and talk about what's been going on, key takeaways, 4 key takeaways. And these 4 key takeaways I think are very important to remember on what happened on on January 17th. And I'm going to do this every day as best I can. If I miss a day, I'll do another. But I'll try to include both days. So we've had major fighting in the Sloviansk area. This blue, you can see this is a Ukraine counteroffensive. And this yellow is Russian trying to advance, right? So here's their trenches. Here's the Ukraine trenches. Ukraine's trying to push them out. We had some major fighting down here in the Kramatorsk area. Russia would love to take Kramatorsk. You know Bakhmut. You know the whole Bakhmut story from way back. And with this major fighting here, but you can see a little bit of Russia, Ukraine counter attacks. Ukraine counter attacks here. The Koziansk area. You all know about the Toretsk and Horvika battles at the beginning of the war. This is all the Donetsk, and this is a big area, right? The Prokhorovsk area. This is a huge area that's going on right now of fighting, and you have some, you know, little bit of insertion here. If we're going to blow this up in a minute. And then you have major fighting in these areas. You can see the Ukrainian counteroffensives. A key thing on this is this area is these areas where there's reported Ukrainian partisan warfare. So there's Ukrainians inside fighting Russians, Ukrainian partisans, kind of like the French partisans in World War II. So that's key. All right, now let's go here. So I took some notes. I read this whole report for you, and there's some four key takeaways. Of course, they print them here, but I want to go into a little bit. So there is supposedly peace talks in Miami on the 17th. Ukrainians sent one, two, three, three major people. Ukrainian Defense Council Secretary Umarov, another guy Budanov, and and David Archivia. They met with Steve Wickford, Witkoff, our special envoy in Miami, and Jared Kushner, and U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll. No Russians were there. So how are they calling these peace talks? It's not around a peace negotiation. It's just Ukrainians or America trying to get Ukrainians to make some concessions. I don't know. Negotiations are unclear. Okay, second one. EU countries are cracking down against oil tankers associated with the shadow fleets of Russia. This is huge because President Trump is saying, Europe, you cannot be taking Russia's oil because that just gives them money. So yesterday, this from Bloomberg, they turned back a ship that was going between Denmark and Sweden and to Germany, and it was turned back, and the ship skedaddled north back up over the northern Arctic area back to its Russia port. So it didn't get to deliver its payload. It's the first time that an EU country has been known to turn back a shadow fleet, a shadow oil tanker. So it's huge. Now, of course, we know that there's a lot of oil ships that were off Venezuela that were trying to bring in oil or take out oil or get oil from Venezuela and bring it. Well, that's been shut down, right? Those have all been turned around. Okay, three key takeaways. NATO jets have had to scramble in response to another Russian military aircraft flight close to the NATO airspace. Well, that's huge. That's huge. The notes I took are a little bit more daunting. There was a Russian fighter jet, doesn't matter the kind, but it was nearing the Baltic Sea. This has been ID'd as Russia's phase zero to destabilize Europe. We hear about them wanting to destabilize Europe. This is their identified phase zero. Running their jets close to the NATO borders and making NATO jets scramble. That's destabilizing to the area. Ukrainian forces recently advanced in Kupiansk and Pokrovsk. Well, we talked about that. Let's go and take a look at Pokrovsk. Wrong. Yeah, right here. Okay. So here's Pokrovsk, right? Russian forces are coming up. There's been a lot of talk the last couple of days that Russia says they control over Pokrovsk, but Ukraine says they got people in here. Well, here's a little Ukrainian counter thing, but looks like they're surrounded by Russians. So we'll see what plays out here. Geolocated footage of January indicates that Ukrainian forces advance over a farm southwest of Fleet. Well, that's important because what that does, that breaks up this part of the Russian advance and this part of the Russian advance. So that's an important, and there's significant fighting here. So that goes back to the fourth pillar here. Now let's find Kupiansk. Um, and I think I had a video on Kubiansk. Yeah, Kubiansk right here. So there's been some fight. Look at all of this. This is the Kharkiv region. This is big because they want to take Kharkiv. All this blue. This is where it looks like Ukraine is massing its forces to make sure this 25-kilometer radius around Kharkiv is not infiltrated. You see Russians here, they own this area, they're pushing here, they're pushing over here, and they're pushing down here. But Ukraine is really counterattacking here. So, what's the key takeaway today? Well, the key takeaway are these four things. There's significant fighting all along this front. There is significant fighting around Kharkiv. Peace negotiations aren't really moving forward, but they're continuing in Florida with U.S. Ukrainian officials. NATO jets are scrambling to push back NATO Russian jets that are skirting close to NATO airspace. European countries are finally coming through and pushing back oil tankers. That's huge because that takes away funding for Russia. And our president said that has to happen. And of course, we've had Ukrainian forces push forward in these areas. I would say, though, based on what my study is, they're not pushing this forward as fast as they need to in these areas. So that city's gone. Pokrovsk is gone, I think. Kubiansk is not gone yet, but we'll see. Okay. Well, I appreciate you all watching. And if you like these updates, again, my name's Bill, WWP Reacts, and I like to talk about commentary tactically, strategically, what's going on, not just show videos. Although there are some videos I could show. One of them, I think, is here. There's a lot of movement of the power infrastructure being attacked, leaving the grid at 60% capacity by Russia. So, okay, and let's just see what Zelensky had to say here on the 16th, real quick.
Бажаю здоров'я. Сьогодні було багато міжнародної роботи. Наші партнери, президент Чехії в Україні, у нас доволі значна співпраця, зокрема по зброї. Будемо продовжувати чеську ініціативу щодо артилерії, яка підтримує спільне виробництво. Теж передусім це стосується дронів. Важливо, що Чехія з нами.
Okay, well that's it for today. That's what's on the ground in Russia, Ukraine as of the 17th, which is yesterday. It's the latest I can give you. Tomorrow I'll talk about what happened on the 18th. Have a fantastic day and come back, like and subscribe, and tell your friends about my channel. Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a good day.